Hey guys, so I'm gonna do my October wrap-up and November TBR and talk about a few other things, including the fact that I haven't been here pretty much all month. I have not uploaded a single video since my last wrap-up TBR video, and I apologize for that. I just have been sort of lazy about it, haven't really felt like sitting down and filming a video, more like I haven't felt like sitting down and editing videos. But now, right now, I feel like I want to film some videos and want to film some reviews, want to film some tags. I'm actually in the mood for it now, so hopefully you'll be seeing more of me over the next month. But yeah, let's just jump right into my October wrap-up. The first book I actually finished in October was Red Seas and Red Skies. I actually already talked about this in my last wrap-up because I had already finished the book. I filmed that wrap-up several days into October already, and I had already finished it, so I already talked about it a little bit, but I'll talk about it a little bit more now. It was really good. I originally thought when I finished this that I did like the first one better, personally, but thinking about it now, I think I enjoyed them pretty much equally. I think, honestly, I might even enjoy this one even more, but mostly because there's this huge section in this book that is about pirates and pirating and stuff on the seas, and I really, really enjoy that kind of thing. So this particular book was very, very fun for me. I loved everything about it. I read it with Lindsay and Sarah and Sana, and we had a whole lot of fun talking about it. And I'm actually going to be reading the third book, The Republic of Thieves, with them and Michael from Bitten by a Radioactive Book sometime either at the very end of this month or the very beginning of December. But yeah, I really love the series. Lachlan Moore is one of my favorite protagonists of all time now. I love Scott Lynch's writing style. His sense of humor just really hits home with me. I really love the way he writes. I really love the dialogue he puts into it. I really love the way he schemes, the way he makes the characters scheme, and the plans he gives them, and how those plans are carried out. And the way this book ends, I just loved it. I loved everything about it. And I really think this is a series that you need to read if you are a fantasy lover. The next book I also read with Lindsay and Sarah, and it is Warbreaker by Bray and Sanderson, one of the last books in the Cosmere that I have to read, and I freaking love this. I've heard people telling me that this book and Elantris are not as good as, like, say, Mistborn or the Stormlight Archive or other Bray and Sanderson stuff in the Cosmere. And I would disagree with that completely, honestly. I mean, I can't speak for Elantris yet because I haven't read it yet, but Warbreaker, this was unbelievably good. I was so pleasantly surprised at how much I loved this book. I think out of all the Bray and Sanderson books that I've read, this has some of the best character development, from where the characters start from where our perceptions of the characters start at the beginning of the book, where you see them at the end, how you see them at the end, and how they got there, and how your opinions of them, how my opinions of them transformed throughout the entire book, was fantastic. It was amazing, and I think, like I said, just one of the best bits of character development that I've seen Brandon Sanderson do, and in a single book. I mean, this is a standalone. There might be a sequel later on, but as it is now, it's a standalone, and the story in the standalone is a whole lot of fun. The characters are really great. I really enjoyed the magic system a lot. I really pretty much enjoyed everything about it. And I was really surprised at the importance this book plays into the Cosmere. This takes place on a completely different world, completely different magic system, completely different cast of characters than any of the other Cosmere books. And I wasn't expecting it to have such a huge weight on Cosmere stuff. And I feel like it actually has the second biggest weight on Cosmere stuff at the moment of all the books that he's published now. Out of all the books besides Throne of the Archive, this one, it has the biggest weight on the Cosmere. There's just a lot of stuff that contributes to it, and I obviously can't talk about that stuff because it'll spoil things about Stormlight Archive and about this book. So if you haven't read it, you need to, because it's a very important work within the Cosmere, and it is a very, very fun story with some great characters. Actually, at the same time while I was reading Warbreaker, I started reading Deathless by Catherynne M. Valente. It sort of took me a pretty long time to read this book, longer than I thought it would. I thought I would be able to get through it pretty fast because it's pretty short comparatively to the other books I was reading this month. but it took me a long time to read. I did like it. I think it was very beautifully written. I think that's kind of obvious. Those who've read anything by Catherynne and Valente, I'm sure, would know why that's obvious. Her writing is just gorgeous, poetic, and sometimes that can be a downfall for this book in particular. In this, it's sort of distracted from the story and from the characters for me. There's just so much going on in every single sentence of the book that it becomes a bit distracting, honestly. And I would sit there and read a couple paragraphs of this really beautiful writing, and then I wouldn't be able to read for that long. I'd be like, I'd read a couple pages and then I'd be like, I have to put this down now. There's just too much. Because I did feel a connection to the characters and to the story, yes, but there's just something about it. Like simple character motivation, for example. Characters, it seems, would just do the most random things. Like, it felt like it was just like Catherynne Valente was sitting there and thinking, what is the weirdest possible thing they could do next? And a lot of times it's really fun and interesting, but it also really confuses the characters' motives and what they want and what they're looking for. And I had a really hard time trying to figure out what she was saying with it, what she was saying with the characters, what she was saying with the story. I feel like there was really something there that needed to be said in it, that she was trying to say in it, with the main character especially, and the things she goes through. But just so many different weird things happen that the main character does. There's so many weird decisions that all of the characters do that just really makes it difficult to follow what they want and what they're looking for, and to follow what the point of the story was, I guess. I sound like I'm being really harsh, and I don't mean to. I gave this 4 stars. More like 3.5 to 4, something like that. I did really like reading it. I really think it was beautifully written, like I said a million times, and I found it really interesting, and I definitely want to check out something else by Catherynne Valente now and see how I feel about that. But like just all those criticisms were just things that kept me from enjoying it as much as I thought I would have, I guess. And the next book I read is the 4th book in the Dark Tower series, Wizard in Glass by Stephen King. This book was so good. I loved literally everything about it. I mean, it's so completely different from the rest of the books in the series so far, in the fact that it takes place mostly in the past. I can't really explain it too much because it's a 4th book in a series, but Roland, the main character of the series, is a gunslinger, and he's searching for the Dark Tower. That's basically what his life is at the moment, is going towards the Dark Tower. He comes across a lot of people that help him on this journey, that join him on this journey, and it's basically just about him going after the Dark Tower. And this book specifically is him telling a childhood story, like from his teenage years, to some of the people that he's traveling with. And I really loved it a lot. I was surprised that I really loved it a lot, because it went on for a very, very long time. The vast majority of the book takes place in the past, and it feels like it's like a huge break from the actual story that's going on, the story that we've been following for the past 3 books. And usually something like that wouldn't work. It would feel like a hindrance in the story. It would feel like just unnecessary, but in this it feels entirely necessary. It feels so important to our understanding of Roland and how he is and who he is and what his goals are and what he wants and what his life has been like. And I just felt such a huge connection to everything in this book. It worked very, very well for me. It was very, very fun to see Roland as a teenager and to see him go through what he goes through. He kind of like meets this girl, falls in love, and it's very surprising, and I really, really loved it. I think this is a series that all fantasy lovers should be reading, and I mean, it has so many different elements besides just fantasy, and I get why it wouldn't be as appealing to some people, because it's such a huge mishmash of themes and genres that it seems really weird, and it is really weird, but I think it's weird that really, really works really well, and I enjoy it immensely. Yes, it's a mishmash, but the tone is just so perfectly set. It's just the way he writes the story, the way Stephen King brings the story to life, makes it feel so real and gives the characters this really great depth that is unexpected and that really, really works. And the mishmash of genres is just a whole lot of fun. It really is. So if you love weird, then I just really recommend the series. I think you really should pick it up. I'm going to say that for every single book in the series that I review. And I hope you never get tired of it, because I'm just going to keep saying it until everybody I know has read it. So, and then the next book I read was one that has the most hype, I think, of any book on BookTube. More hype than any Brandon Sanderson book, more hype than anything, really, because everyone, literally everyone, except for maybe a few select people, seemed to love it unconditionally, and that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I read this, I could not put it down ever. I just wanted to stay up and read it constantly. I literally could not stop reading this book. It took me a very short time amount to read, and I really did love it. I had a few problems with it. I gave it maybe like 4 to 4.5 stars, not 5 stars, because I did have some issues with the way the world outside of the Oasis is portrayed. I feel like was kind of silly, kind of unrealistic. I really felt that the Oasis itself actually could exist. Like, if someone put in the time to create this thing and we had the technology for it to exist the way it does in this world, I think it's very plausible. But the outside world that the Oasis exists within is not very plausible. And I just had a big problem with that, but that was such a small part of the story. Such a huge part of the story takes place in the Oasis and not in the real world that it didn't really hinder my enjoyment whatsoever. It was just a small problem that really is the only thing that kept me from giving it 5 stars. Also, that mainly only the main character was like really characterized. The other characters sort of had a kind of little bit of depth to them, like Artemis, and you'll know who that is if you've read it. I felt like she had a little bit of depth to her, but at the same time wasn't as characterized as I would have liked. Overall, this book was so much fun. I loved everything about it. I loved reading about the Oasis. I loved all the different things I got, like all the things I understood, all the different references I understood. That was another problem I had with it. I love the references. It was great. But sometimes I feel like the story took a backseat to the references, like they were just there to be there. And it didn't necessarily add a ton to the story sometimes, but I mean, it was a lot of fun. I really love this. I understand what the hype is about. It was really well written. It was written in an extremely fast-paced way. Like I said, I just couldn't put it down the entire time I was reading it, and I loved it so much. I really can't wait to read more by Ernest Cline. I really hope he continues writing stuff like this. And I'm pretty sure that book is being made into a movie, and that's something I'm really excited about too, because I think it would be a really good movie. The last book I read in October was The Diviners by Libba Bray. I definitely liked it a lot. I gave it like 4 stars out of 5. Yeah, like an even 4. It was good. I originally started it. I wasn't sure what to think going in. I know it's like YA, and I started reading it. I didn't think it was necessarily the greatest thing. I thought I would like it though. It takes place in 1920s New York, and early 20th century New York is one of my favorite time periods to read about. And I started reading it. I kind of felt the beginning was really lackluster. I was a bit disappointed at the beginning. I thought going into the first few chapters, reading the first few chapters, it felt sort of not that great. I kind of was under the impression that the rest of the book would be a bit superficial and not very in-depth or interesting, and I was very, very wrong. This book has some really, really great characters. I was really surprised at how well done the character development was in this. Actually felt a whole lot for the characters and the situations they were in, and I was really surprised going into that. There was this point in the book where my favorite character in the book, Theta, she's like sitting down and thinking about her life, and I realized then that I was like, wow, I can't believe I actually thought this book was going to be superficial and shallow or whatever, and I was really blown away, more than I thought it would be, by how well done it was. I don't want to say for a YA book, because that sounds like I'm being condescending toward YA books, but that's just how I felt going in. That's how I felt it was going to be going into it's after reading the first few chapters. But I was wrong, and it was good. I liked it. The only thing is, the antagonist, Naughty John, was nowhere near as interesting as I was hoping he would be. He was actually the character that I thought would be the most interesting when I was reading the beginning, but he wasn't. We barely really even ever see him. I really never felt much for him at all, and I felt like there could have just been so much more done with his character. We never really see from his perspective, and I thought we were going to. I really thought we'd be able to read from his perspective and really get into his creepy mind and the thoughts he has. We only ever see him through the eyes of the people, and he talks to other people sometimes, and that's really how we get a sense of what he thinks and what he feels, but it isn't enough to make him very interesting or anything. At the end of the book, I just kind of didn't really feel anything. I don't know, I didn't really feel anything towards the ending of the book, like how the plot resolved itself. I didn't feel anything towards it, but I did feel stuff towards the characters. I thought the characters were really well done, and that's where the book shined, and that's why I gave it 4 or 5 stars, because I really did like the characters a lot. I am really glad that I read it, and I'll probably be reading the next book in the series to see where the characters go. So, and then right now I'm reading Feast for Crows, the 4th book in the Song of Ice and Fire series. I just started this. I started it like right at the end of October, and I'm barely into it at all. Mostly because this is usually where I show you books that I bought this month, but I actually didn't buy any books at all in October. But I'm actually going to be at a bookstore probably later this afternoon, and probably going to buy some stuff, so that's whatever. You'll see that at the end of this month. And anyway, I'm actually going to talk for a second about NaNoWriMo, because I decided that I'm going to be doing it this month. I've never done NaNoWriMo before. I've told myself in the past that I'm never going to do NaNoWriMo because I'm a slow writer. I don't like pressure, and I just thought I wouldn't enjoy doing it, but I'm actually really, really enjoying it. I've had this book idea in like kind of developing in my head for almost a year now, maybe over a year now. I can't exactly remember when the idea first popped into my head or when the ideas started forming in my head for it, but it's something I've been thinking about for a while now, so I wanted to sit down and force myself to write it, and I'm really, really glad I did. I'm really glad I started NaNoWriMo. Sometimes I'll sit down, like the past few days, it's already the 5th of November, and I've just felt so good about what I've been writing. I mean, it's not all good, like it's not, I'm sure most of it is crap, but I'm happy with it. Like, I'm happy with the way that it's coming out. Like, I've been thinking about some of these scenes that I'm writing right now in my head for a very long time, and I'm so glad I'm finally writing them. I'm really surprised at how easy they're coming out, and it feels really good, and I'm really enjoying NaNoWriMo so far. I'm really hoping that I'll get to that 50,000 words, although I don't think the book will be finished at that point, in which case I'm going to have to keep writing in December, which I'm perfectly fine with. I'm very happy with, actually, because I'm really, even if I don't hit that word goal, I'm really in for it for the goal of writing every single day, because that's something I want to do from now on, is write every single day. I haven't done that in a very long time. I haven't been able to do that in a very long time, but right now, writing the story, it's happening, and it feels natural, and it's coming out naturally, and I feel really good about it, and I'm hoping that continues throughout the month. I mean, I'm sure it'll be hard at some times. I'm sure I'll get stuck. I'm sure I'll get writer's block at some point, but as long as I sit down and write a little bit, I think I'll be very happy. I actually don't like to type, though. I don't type stories on the computer when I write. I don't like it. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't help me creatively. I just feel really weird sitting there typing on the computer, and it doesn't feel, nothing comes out when I do that. So I actually handwrite. Like I talked about this a bit on my writing tag video, which I was like a really old video I did a long time ago. I think it's like one of the least watched videos on my channel, but I always handwrite things. And I mean, like, this is when I'm handwriting it in. Like, my handwriting is pretty messy, but I can read it really well. I know other people can't, though. But yeah, I've written about 7,000 words. I don't count the words on each page, like individually. That takes way too long. But I did count a few pages, and like kind of got a different, like a sort of average of how many words I write a page, and it's about 350 a page. Some is a little bit more and some is a little bit less. So it's about 350 average a page, and that's how I count how many words that I've written. And so I've written 20 pages, and that's 7,000 words. And I try not to edit, and I don't really edit. Sometimes I'm like, it's not necessarily editing, but I write a sentence and I'm like halfway through it, or write a paragraph and I'm halfway through it and I'm like, wait a second, that's not how I wanted to word that. So I just cross it out and rewrite that sentence or paragraph over again. And that's really the only editing I do. Let me know if you're doing NaNoWriMo, and actually add me as a writing buddy. I'll put my link to my NaNoWriMo page or whatever down in the description. You can click on that and go add me. I'll add you back. Anyway, I have no idea how long this video is at this point, but I'm just going to give you a list of books now that I might be reading in November. I'm kind of spending a lot of the time that I would have been writing now, so I won't be reading nearly as much as I usually have. I know that it reminds me of something. I actually started listening to my very first audiobook ever, and I'm really enjoying it. Like, I never thought I would like audiobooks. Like, it's just something that I never really felt like it would appeal to me, but it actually really is, and I'm really glad, because now I can listen to books while I'm in the car on my way to work and while I'm actually at work. And right now, I'm listening to Lizzie's Story by Stephen King. I haven't read this book in a pretty long time. I keep saying it's one of my favorites, and it is one of my favorites, but I haven't read it in a while, and I kind of forgot some of the stuff that happens in it. So I'm listening to it, and it's actually going really well. I'm really liking it. I think I'm going to be listening to more books from now on. But anyway, let me go ahead and just show you real quick the books I hope to be reading this month. Fifth book in the Dark Tower series, Wolves of the Kala. I've heard very mixed things about this one, but I'm hoping it's good. And I'm also going to hope to read Elantris, the last book in the Cosmere I have to read, and also The Emperor's Soul, another thing in the Cosmere I have to read, but a novella. A Hugo Award-winning novella that I'm very interested in seeing what it's like what a Hugo Award-winning Brandon Sanderson piece of work sounds like. And I'm also really hoping to read All the Light We Cannot See. This is one that's very high on my priority list. I want to read it to kind of take a break from the fantasy I'm reading. I think this is one I'm definitely going to be reading in November. And also, next week on either Monday or Tuesday, Stephen King's new book, Revival, is being published. I actually already ordered it. I pre-ordered it, but I pre-ordered the UK cover version of it, so I'm not sure how long it'll take to get here. But as soon as that gets here, like literally as soon as it gets here, I'm going to start reading it. So you can pretty much assume that you're going to see a review of that at some point along. And I'm also going to be hoping to do a kind of combined review of both Warbreaker and Elantris after I finish Elantris. Like, I'm just going to review both books in one video. I know people like more than one book in a review, so anyway, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I'll be seeing you more. I hope you'll be seeing me more during this month. I'm probably not going to do like any more videos about NaNoWriMo until the end of the month, but you should see some reviews and tags from me this month, hopefully. So yeah, I'll see you guys very soon with more. Thanks for watching.